Welcome to the first lesson in our Early College Foundations chapter, where we will discuss your foundation. So, when does investment banking internship recruitment start? Investment banks have been steadily moving their recruitment processes earlier each year, mainly in an effort to stay competitive and secure the best talent. Bulge bracket and elite boutique banks have pushed formal recruitment to January of sophomore year. While smaller middle market banks do recruit a little bit later, normally starting more towards the summer, they are also moving their processes earlier each year. What this really means for students is that they need to begin networking in the fall of their sophomore year or the summer before their sophomore year to be competitive for these positions. We recommend that students start networking around 5 months before formal recruiting. This will give students enough time to chat with many different bankers at different banks, hopefully more than once, creating some strong connections at each bank. Looking at the timeline, we can see that in August, we begin to network lightly and start building our contact list. In September through November, early applications open and networking is really in full swing. In December, we want to hammer down both our technical interview and our behavioral interview as we continue to network. In January, resume drops open for large bulge bracket and elite boutique banks, and this really is our final networking push as we make an ask of all of our contacts. In February through March, first round interviews start to happen and networking begins to slow as we are focusing heavily on interviews. And lastly, in February through May, this is when Super Day interviews happen and offers will begin to come out towards the summer. Some banks will open their initial applications later than January, and for these banks, you can either still begin networking in the fall or push back your overall timeline by a month or two. A good rule of thumb is to start networking around 5 months before an application opens. This will allow you to speak with many bankers multiple times, which is extremely important. Pro tip: formal recruitment means that banks are having interviews and opening applications. Informal recruitment is when students are networking before any applications are open. You may be thinking, what's the big deal with an internship? An internship is crucial to getting a job in investment banking for a few different reasons. First, banks hire a majority of their full-time workers from their own internship programs. For these banks, having interns during the summer is like an extended job interview where they actually get to interact with you and see what your work product and personality is like. As a result, banks like to retain interns into their full-time programs who fit well with the culture and create a quality work product. Fitting well with the culture really just means that you are sociable, hardworking, and have a great attitude. In this context, internships really are a trial period for banks, where they can integrate you into their office for 8 to 10 weeks and immerse you in their world to see if you are a fit. We mentioned cultural fit, which might not be clear for all students. When people speak about cultural fit, they really mean finding students that are easy to get along with. You don't have to be the most interesting person in the world or a world-class comedian. You just need to be able to hold basic conversations with bankers and be somewhat relatable. Having an upbeat attitude goes a really long way, as it makes you more approachable and enjoyable to be around. While we just covered how important internships are for a bank, they are just as much for you as they are for the bank. Internships are a great way to show bankers that you learn from your mistakes, that you are hardworking, competent, and have a great attitude. Banks like to see these attributes because banking hours can be quite grueling, and having workers that have bad attitudes or lackluster work ethics can be draining to both the morale of the team and the overall quality of the team's output. Another important aspect of an internship from a student's perspective is to see if you actually like the work. Reading about a career and actively working in it are two completely different things, and you will not know if you enjoy the work until you are immersed in it. An internship lets you take a small step into the lifestyle of an investment banker. Long hours and prioritizing work over everything else is certainly not for everyone. Many students will think they want to work in IB until they are exposed to it. So, being able to do a trial run of investment banking via an internship is just as beneficial to you as it is to the bank. Now, it is possible to not intern with a bank and still recruit full-time for IB positions, but it is so much harder. While you do see students break into investment banking from consulting and other internship roles, you will be at a huge disadvantage to students who spent an entire summer doing banking. These students will have prior experience, know banking on a much deeper level than you, and are likely more prepared for interviews. So, do an internship. It is without a doubt the best and most reliable way to break into investment banking. Pro tip: you can begin to network too late, but it is never too early. Make sure to stay on top of networking and recruitment timelines. Another common question that students have is, why do banks recruit so early? The main idea is that banks recruit early in an attempt to lock down the best talent before other banks do. Banks are risk averse by nature, and locking down interns far in advance helps to mitigate from issues like interns backing out or other sudden changes that a bank needs time to fix. Along with this, as a select few banks push recruiting earlier, it really does create a chain effect as other banks feel the need to push their own recruitment timelines up. So, the main issue is most likely a ripple effect resulting from a few banks that constantly push recruitment up. Knowing that we should begin networking in the fall of our sophomore year at the latest, we must have a solid understanding of what IB is, what the interview process is like, and how to best go about interviews before we begin our networking process. So, let's get started. Coming up next, we will explain how students can become the perfect candidate for investment banking.